Unlike what the name might imply, Freddy has never been a huge draw to the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Sure, there's always been versions of Freddy, but they've never really been a huge threat nor the favorite characters. At least, not for the first round of Fnaf games. Whether it be Foxy, Withered Bonnie, the Puppet, or Springtrap, Freddy remained in the shadows of other animatronics. But that changed with the release of Sister Location. Ironically, Sister Location was the first game in the series when another character was taking over the role of leader of the band, pushing Freddy into a side role. While chrome and plated, this new Freddy seemed to be the least interesting of the band, his only draw being his Bonnie hand puppet. And then Sister Location released, and we were introduced to Funtime Freddy. Now, the common consensus for Freddy Fazbear's personality, at least in the fan community and at least back then, was that this baritone bear was the leader of the band. Many portrayals placed him as the serious one of the group, likely because of his mechanics where he would wait a few nights in before accompanying Bonnie and Chica to hunt the night guard in FNAF 1. FNAF 2's Toy Freddy wasn't exactly taken seriously. His somewhat dopey, rounded appearance made him less than threatening, which probably led to his recent status as a joke character. Funtime Freddy is as far from both of these as you can get, and it all started with his voice.
Well, hello again. I know you're over there somewhere.
Sister Location was the first game with proper voice acting, and this is where the true nature of Funtime Freddy is displayed at its finest. Unlike his previous counterparts, Funtime Freddy was portrayed as sinisterly malicious and comically wicked, mockingly calling through the dark as he creeps up on his prey. Against Baby's soft murmur and Bellora's light singing, Freddy's voice was sharp and shrill, both off-putting and undeniably enticing in a way. That alone covered up for how unthreatening Freddy might have looked from the get-go. Not to mention that, unlike the others, Funtime Freddy got the most time to shine. Baby, while having plenty of voice lines, pretty much barely appears in the game physically. Funtime Freddy has two designated sections devoted to him, the first being his introduction in the breaker room, where he creeps up on you while you're trying to repair the lights. Later on, there is also a repair section with Funtime Freddy, where you pop him open and remove a couple of battery packs. It should be noted that both of these segments are only moderately challenging on first playthrough, which would probably leave players with a better impression of them, compared to something like Night 4, which, yes, had to be patched. Though back to the comparison with Baby. Funtime Freddy outshined the other animatronics. Funtime Foxy was dead silent and only really appeared once. Bellora, while possibly being designed to be fan bait, had a much more restrained personality. And Baby, yes, she was popular, but she wasn't as loud and attention-grabbing as Funtime Freddy had been. I'm not saying these others weren't popular or didn't have fans, they did. But you can see where Funtime Freddy had a chance to step up from the group. He looks the most basic of the group, but he is the most outwardly malicious. Something that is backed up by the blueprints of the Funtimes released in this game. While all the other animatronics have these obviously suspicious features built in, Freddy's are especially unsettling and fit too well with his bombastically chilling behavior. A proximity sensor, a parental tracker, a voice mimic lure, and a storage tank. While Bellora and Funtime Foxy are both built as vessels for distraction, Freddy has the whole thing covered. He tracks how many people are in a room, including parents, lures in kids, and snatches them. In fact, unlike the others, Funtime's Freddy's blueprints are a lot more direct in how dangerous he is, while Baby's features are all but hidden, and, again, the other two animatronics are playing defense. If Baby is the angry machine looking for revenge, Funtime Freddy is the scary child mascot you get stuck under the attention of it like a Chuck E. Cheese. Baby's creepy in her ability to think and plan, but Funtime Freddy is so unnerving that it puts you in the place of an uncomfortable child. He's too big to get away from. He's too much and consuming. Yet instead of repelling attention, something about this had the opposite effect. Needless to say, Funtime Freddy became a fan favorite pretty quickly. This is likely why when Molten Freddy came around, it was made to adapt Funtime Freddy's characteristics instead of Bellora's or Funtime Foxy's. Because with Baby out of the way, Freddy was definitely the most popular of the three remaining bandmates, and with his overbearing personality, the most likely to take over as leader once she was gone. However, Molten Freddy was a bit of a step down. A huge step down from Innard's potential, a slight step down from Funtime Freddy's. As, remember, Freddy wasn't that outright threatening. He was verbally threatening, but not too much so physically. This did make Freddy a little more threatening, but the price was that, like all the characters in Pizzeria Simulator, you see them for like 10 seconds through the entire game, and you barely hear them unless you die a lot. It really didn't give Molten Freddy a lot to work with. But the biggest problem with Molten Freddy was that there was no going back. Like with Michael and the scooping, once you changed Funtime Freddy, or Innard, this much, there's no going back to what they were before. This was the end of Funtime Freddy as we knew it, save spin-offs and compilations. Which is likely why Funtime Freddy got the special chance to be on Fnaf AR, when even the puppet didn't get that. And Funtime Freddy's arrival was met with a lot of excitement, and was so beloved that, for a while, if I remember this right, he was only able to be gotten if you paid a hunk of money for him. Yeah, okay. Funtime Freddy also appeared in Help Wanted, but weirdly enough, he's sort of filling someone else's role. By which I mean, Funtime Freddy is in the FNAF 4 bedroom segment, looking down the hallways and creeping up, a mechanic more fitting of one of the nightmares. It's a peculiar decision. I guess they decided Funtime Freddy was more popular than the nightmares, but just wanted to stick with the same FNAF 4 map. Odd, but okay. It seems to at least follow the motions of the Sister Location custom night appearances. It's serviceable. Not as cool as Ennard's Help Wanted appearance, but not as rough as some of the others. Funtime Freddy made 2 book appearances. He appeared in the 4th closet as William's lackey, but he really just didn't do anything. He didn't have any of his charm, or even a reason to be there. He was just kind of shoehorned in, just like Funtime Foxy, who became Mangle. And yes, Funtime Foxy became Mangle. Something that can't be said for his Fazbear Frights appearance. And I'm talking about Funtime Freddy, not Mangle. Funtime Freddy got his own story, Count the Ways. In it, Funtime Freddy traps a teenage girl in his stomach hatch, and they have a long conversation about how he's going to kill her. The story bounces back and forth between the girl's angsty teenage drama and the conversation with Funtime Freddy, and it comes off as extremely messy, but somehow, it mostly works. Funtime Freddy, at least, feels very in character. And I know a lot of people really like the story, and I can actually understand why. It is one of those Fazbear Fright stories that does legitimately, actually, feel like it belongs in a FNAF book. And then, that's it. That's Funtime Freddy's cutoff point. And that point, he was done. But this was pretty recently, so it's not that bad. He kind of gets a cameo on the Blob, but it's not quite... it's not him. And maybe it has his mask, but no personality and no voice, so it doesn't really count. Because, as we kind of went over before, Funtime Freddy's biggest draw wasn't how he looked, it was how he sounded. That voice kind of pulled him through. And at this point, we still don't know not only who the Blob is, but how finished the Blob was, so it's kind of in limbo there. So, for now, that's it for Funtime Freddy. Did he deserve better? I'm not sure. See, he is a great character, but he had a pretty good run that got cut off pretty recently. Especially after the whole Molten Freddy change. He actually got pretty lucky to get as many appearances as he did, and not get completely replaced by Molten Freddy. His appearances in FNAF AR, Help Wanted, and even the books turned out to be pretty successful. And here's the kicker. Like characters like Ennard and Baby, Funtime Freddy is living vicariously through a new character. Traits of him live on. And unlike Ennard, who got replaced with a couple of poor duplicates, and Baby getting replaced by the sexy rabbit, Funtime Freddy got something else. And we got the daycare attendant. There's no denying, from the voice to the off-putting behavior to that weird sort of uncomfortable child mascot feel, that the sun and the moon had at least some amount of inspiration from Funtime Freddy. They're kind of a natural successor, and while they don't really fill his niche entirely, they do a good job in getting part of his feeling down while still being new and intriguing characters on their own. Which does, in the end, make it a little easier to lose Funtime Freddy. It's always easier to swallow a pill with a spoonful of applesauce. And this doesn't mean that he won't ever be back. I do expect there are some characters who you know are going to return. Funtime Freddy is one of these characters. I don't know how, I don't know when, but we will meet again. Or they could just have Kellen Goff voice the Blob and, salvage that character.